Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Do you know how cool we are?
No, I have no idea.
We're so cool because we don't have a Sober.Coffee.com. We have a Sober.Coffee. I mean, who else has a .coffee
So I'm
account?
not sure if that's cool or stupid.
Yeah.
But we are the only, I think we're the only .coffee that I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of research.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So
But it sounds cool.
yeah, it sounds cool anyway.
What's going on, brother?
Well, you know, we got a special table for three today.
Oh, man, I love Table for Threes.
I know. And I'm super excited because this is, I've got some history with this woman. I remember going to meetings, and of course, you know, as we talk about, Glenn and I have similar backgrounds. We go to the same meetings, you know, 12-step recovery, Alcoholics Anonymous. And so I'm sitting in the room, and it was, for people who don't know where we were from, 191st Street, and this lady walked.
Chicagoland.
Yeah, Chicagoland. So this lady walked in, and she had a smile on her face, and she sat in the back right by the door, you know, and I kind of waved to her, and I said hi at the end, and she said hi, I'm Lynn, and away she went, and then the next week, the same meeting, Sunday morning meeting, she was there, and I said hi, Lynn, and she said, oh, hi, Mike, and she sat right by the door, and then boom, she left, and that was that. And this repeated itself time after week after week after week, and then I quit seeing Lynn. And but in the time we not only said hi and bye, but then her daughter was getting married, and she was nervous about that, and so we were just starting to kind of get in groove, and then boom, she gone, and then she came back, and I saw her in a meeting. I said, hey, Lynn, right? And she goes, yeah. I said, how you doing? She goes, I am doing fantastic. Never been better.
Whoa.
And I said, okay, well, tell me about that. So anyway, wanted to have her join us for coffee this morning, if it's all right, Glenn, and have her share the story, her journey about where she came from, where she went, and what brought her back, and what's working. Does that make sense? Should we have her?
Totally
Should we have her
does.
on? I mean, I could throw her out, but
No, I think we have to.
she
So,
drove all the way here from Florida. So.
I am trying to think in my mind because I thought I met Lynn through Zooms, but I think I remember her in the meetings prior to Zooms.
Yeah.
But my memory doesn't work very well back then. But
Sitting by the fast exit. Lynn, welcome to the coffee
Welcome,
shop.
Lynn.
Hi, guys.
Hi, so nice to have you. I love your smile.
Thanks for having me.
And your suntan.
Yeah, she's got a little suntan. She's a Floridian, so we're not
A little jealous.
We're not overly happy with her geographical decision she makes. She
Hey,
didn't.
it's a place to come visit, guys.
Yeah, okay. Well, we can
That's
host
awesome.
from there.
So,
yeah.
Lynn, I have to ask you a very important question before
Oh,
we
this should
start.
be
So,
good.
I understand that the villas where you live, like everybody names their villa, and
Yes.
and you were talking about naming yours,
Stop
but you
it.
didn't want it to be like a name. You want to have like a nickname for it, right? So, what
Yes.
nickname did you land up with?
Okay, well, I ended up calling my house is called Lungstuga.
Loom
In
Studa.
Swedish,
Yeah.
Swedish, because I'm Swedish, is Serenity Cottage.
That's
Oh.
awesome. I love
My
it.
name on there. And you know what? I'm going to be honest, Glenn. You kind of gave me that idea.
Wow.
You used the word serenity. I don't know if you said Serenity House, exactly what it was. And that got me thinking. And I thought, you know what? I can do this. And I'm going to use it in
That's
Swedish.
awesome.
So
I
that's
love
what
it.
did.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
fantastic. So
Nice.
So Lynn, let's jump in, man. You came on board. You obviously had some history with whatever, you know, alcohol, and you came looking for a solution, and you found the rooms in Mokina, Illinois. Can you tell me a little bit about what brought you into those rooms?
Well, what brought me into the rooms the first time was my kids. My kids came to me one day and asked if I would go to AA with my son has a friend that's his mom is in the program, and reached out to her and said, I think my mom needs some help. So that's how I came into the room the first time. I came in not really sure, I guess, and very scared and not knowing what to expect. But I didn't want to lose my kids, so I came in. That's what got me started.
Mm-hmm.
So when you said you weren't really sure, were you not sure about like what you were walking into, or you weren't sure if you had a drinking problem?
I would say for definite, I wasn't sure what I was going to be really walking into. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You hear all these stories about, Alcoholics Anonymous, and, things get planted in your brain from other people. And I thought, I don't need to be going there. That's not for me. I have a job. I have 2 jobs. I have 3 jobs. I raised 2 kids on my own. I don't need that. So that's the perception that I had. The other thing was, I don't know if I thought that I was truly an alcoholic. Well, I didn't think I was. I proved that I didn't think I was by doing the things that I should have done that I didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where that started.
So you kind of came in under for them. You didn't come in really for you this first time. You came in because this was a path they wanted you to go down. It wasn't necessarily the path that you were eager to go down at all.
Right.
Okay.
And I don't know that I was against it.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the back of my mind, I thought, I probably do have a problem. When you're drinking at home alone and hiding things when you live alone,
right. Right.
Now I know that's a problem. At the time, I didn't think it was. I thought, what's the big deal?
Yeah, right.
I wasn't a daily drinker. I wasn't an every weekend drinker. But when I did drink, it was a binge. I was a binge drinker. So,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I guess I truly didn't believe 100% that I was.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. That makes sense. And
I sat in the back of the rooms. Mike, you're right when you say that. I would walk in and I would hear every single day how it works. I would hear the promises. I would hear the stories, and I would just sit there, and none of it made any sense to me. I'm like, that's not me.
Mm-hmm.
That's not me. I'm not that way. And I just truly didn't absorb it.
Mm-hmm.
It really didn't.
So what happened with that unresolved?
Well, I guess what I could say happened is I put the drink down the first time. And my daughter was, like you said, my daughter was getting married 6 months after I put the drink down. And I put it down, and I went to a meeting every day for the first 90 because that's what I was told to do. So I did. And I worked in a school, so I was off in the summer, so I could do that. And my daughter gets married in December, get through it just fine, smooth sailing. They made sure that I got handed the apple cider versus the champagne toast when it came time. And, we had it all planned. It was all set up, and I didn't have a problem. It was like, this is not that bad. I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then COVID hit, and school stopped, and I was at home, and I was by myself, and I thought one day, I could do this. I could have a drink. What's the big deal? I can have one. I can have 2, and I can walk away. And ended up 3 days in the ER at Payless, then in a 3-day detox, then on the psych ward, then in a rehab, all in a matter of 3 days of thinking I could have one drink.
Yeah.
It completely flipped me over.
That's the nature of the beast.
So there are some
it's
people
my
out
story.
there.
Yeah.
There's some people out there that are saying, "Wow, that's a lot." 3 days of drinking to go through all that stuff. I can sit here and 100% relate because I've done the exact same thing.
Sure. Well, you justify in your head. You begin to justify that. Well, I certainly am not going to end up where I ended up last time. I'll just start moderately.
I've learned this time.
Yeah,
It's
I've
different.
learned. Yeah, I'll moderate myself.
I've got this.
Yeah. And you ended up in hospital.
Yes, and I kind of like have some ideas of I didn't stay sober. I didn't work the steps. didn't pray daily. I didn't let go and let God. I didn't do any of the things that I heard in the room every single day that I went. I sat in the back of the room, like you said, and I scooted out right after. I didn't come early and get to know people. I didn't stay after and get to know people. I didn't face the truth. I didn't trust my higher power. I didn't do it out of disrespect. I want to make that very clear, that I did not do it on purpose. I did not knowingly be, what's the right word? I don't know. I didn't do it on purpose, and I didn't do it to be disrespectful. Right. Is the thing. I didn't know any better. I just didn't think I was an alcoholic.
Right. And you didn't. So if you don't think you've got the problem, then you're not going to embrace the solution, right? And I think that's what I'm hearing you say, is that, you thought, well, I'm just not like these people. Trust me, I went through the same thing. I go in the room and I'm like, well, I didn't crash my car that many times. Okay, Mike. Well, what did you crash? Your life, And
you hear that. You hear people saying that. Well, the yet stories that you hear. I didn't do that yet. I didn't do that yet. And so I knew better. But it just didn't click.
Right.
And I'm going to be honest. I tried it one more time after that. Right. After going through all that and telling myself, there is no way I'm ever going back. No way I'm ever going back. And then one more time, I thought, I can do this. Now I stopped myself and didn't get
crazy.
Bad situation. Right. But sitting in the room one day, after I tried a second time to do this myself, I heard somebody in the room say, this is what truly turned my program. Step one says, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol. And this person said, we can admit it all we want. You have to believe it. You have to believe it in order to know that you can truly get better. And that, maybe that doesn't stick with anybody else, but man, did that stick with me. I didn't believe it. You know what? Now I believe it. 100% believe it. And that turned my program around. That was the start of turning my program around, knowing that I needed to work this. I needed to do it right this time.
You know what I love about that, and is that they say that, and I've heard this in the rooms often, they say that step one is the one you have to do right. The other ones you can, but you have to get the first step right. It sounds to me like that's the realization you came to. You got the first step right.
Yes.
Wow, powerful.
And now I do all the things right. I do the steps. I've worked through the steps. My mom, growing up, my mom was, religion, faith was very prominent in our family. We went to church every weekend. We hung out at church all the time. That's who we hung out with, families, friends, everything. And my mom would always instill that Jesus loves us no matter what. He's a loving and forgiving God. And when all of this came crashing down on me, that's all I kept thinking was, you know what? If God can forgive me, I can forgive myself and I can move on. And there's hope for me. There's hope. And I know I use that word a lot. There's hope for everybody out there if they want it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we have to get beat over the head, and sometimes we don't. Mm-hmm. And I feel very fortunate that I didn't have to. I mean, yes, I went into a rehab, and yes, I went into a hospital, but it could have been way worse.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been way worse. I could have lost my kids. I could have not had the relationship I have with my kids now. Not have a relationship with my grandbaby now.
Mm-hmm.
I have a grandbaby, and boy, I wouldn't do anything to mess that up.
Right. So it sounds to me like, and you're right, you do say hope, and you do have a faith in a forgiving higher power, right? But I also know you well enough to know that you really work this thing. This is not a passive endeavor for you. This is a aggressive. I mean, your foot is on the gas pedal of sobriety every time I see you, and that's often.
Yeah, I do, Mike. I don't ever want to go back there. I get on my knees every day. My first things out of my mouth every morning is, "Good morning, Lynn. This is God. I will be handling all your problems, all your joys. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the day." And I'm trying very hard to live that way. I saw that quote on the internet one day, and I was like, that's really cool. That's cool. That's God talking to me, not me talking to God.
Mm-hmm.
And that stuck with me a little bit too. So yeah, I truly try very hard to work the steps every day. And sometimes I fail at it. And when I fail at it, I catch it. I catch it right away. I don't have to sit in it. I can figure out what I've done wrong. I can figure out what I can do better. I can figure out how can I help somebody. I'm now a sponsor instead of just a sponsee now.
Oh, that's great, Lynn.
Loving that, loving it. It's a rewarding thing, and as most people know, once you get into here, that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's awesome.
Can I take you to a dangerous intersection?
Uh-oh.
All right.
Sure.
So
all about it.
Right, because you went there, you went to the program, and then twice you went to that place where you said, I'm different now, I can handle it. I've been there. I'm different now, I can handle it. Your brain, my brain, still wants, occasionally it goes there. I find myself at that dangerous intersection saying, I could probably drink like a normal person. What's your go-to when your brain goes there, Lynn?
I guess for me to stop myself from going there, which doesn't happen very often anymore. Honestly, Mike, it really doesn't. It every once in a while I might go, oh man, the lady in front of me at the grocery store has a 4-pack of wine. I used to drink those and I like that, But immediately I'm like, no, you can't do this. You just can't. You will lose everything. You're going to lose your kids. You're going to lose your grandkids. And just, I turn and I pray a lot. I do. There's the third step prayer is kind of long. So I just what sticks in my head is guide me, lead me, control me. So those are the 3 things that I say to myself when I feel myself maybe going down a slippery slope.
So you find yourself a block away from the intersection and say, nope, I'm not going to go there. Guide me, lead me. Okay. You don't let yourself get to that cliff, to that intersection.
Well, that's sort of the 3 stages of a relapse, right?
Yeah.
You have the emotional relapse where you're in situations that are throwing you sideways.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the mental relapse where you find yourself at the intersection. You look at the lady in the grocery store line with the 4-pack, and you start saying, "Wow, I used to do that." And boy, it's been such a long time since I had a last drink. Boy, my body, my brain probably will process it differently this time. That's kind of the mental, and then the actual physical is when you go by the 4-pack.
Right.
And 4-pack, why a 4-pack?
Because
a
it's
40-pack?
No, it's very high end. Because you justify the fact that you're just buying 4 little bottles. It's not really a full bottle.
I mean, you forget about the times that you went back 3 more times to get another.
It's marketing.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. We can laugh about it now, but we can laugh about it because we stop ourselves before we even get down the block to that intersection. That's great advice.
Yeah. So Lynn, let's talk about sponsorship. So you're a sponsor today to a guy, right?
No, to a girl.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding you. No. Most of the time, in fact, it should be all the time, guys stick with guys and girls stick with girls.
Right. There are exceptions. So
I know of one exception.
Right. I know one.
Right.
So go ahead. Go ahead.
So, no, I just want to see how is that going, and what is your experience with a sponsor?
My experience with, let's start from day one. My first sponsor. I had no clue how to do it. Pick a sponsor. I picked the lady that sat next to me. I knew nothing really about her. And, I would ask, so when are we going to start doing the steps? When are we going to start doing the steps? And she'd be like, we'll get to them. And I'm like, okay, well, I keep hearing all these things about, you got to do the steps.
Steps.
Oh, maybe I'm not ready yet. Maybe I need to wait 6 months before I start to do a step. I did 11 months and never did a step the first time through.
Wow.
And, now my advice with that is if you think that you should be doing more in the program, you need to step up and say something. I should have. I didn't. I should have. Would it put me in a different position I am now? I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't ready. But to me right now, it's very important to have open communication with your sponsor or sponsee. I said that from day one when my girl asked me, would you be my sponsor? I said, first I have to pray about it. I have to talk to my sponsor about it. And we'll talk tomorrow. I want you to pray about it too. And talk the next day. And I said, my biggest thing is honesty with us. I said, you have to be able to say anything to me and not be afraid of what my answer might be or my response might be. And I have to be the same way with you. And if you don't think I'm working for you and I'm not doing enough for you, you have to tell me. If I'm not pushing you enough, because I've had girls call me and say, my sponsor isn't pushing me enough. Well, call your sponsor.
Yeah,
don't
right.
call me.
Right.
Call your sponsor. Tell your sponsor what you need.
You got to roll in your recovery.
Having open communication, that is huge. That was huge for me because my second sponsor got me through those 12 steps. And it was amazing. It was amazing. So yeah, open communication, and don't be afraid to tell your sponsor if you don't think she or he is doing right by you and you're not learning what you think you should be learning, or you're just not even sure. Either talk to somebody else in the program, which I did not do, or tell your sponsor. You have to have that open communication.
It's really big. I think of my relationship with, and I'm a big advocate of having a therapist. As meetings are great, but therapy sessions are great too with a professional.
Absolutely.
And it's totally basis honesty. And I can't get better if I'm not honest. That's my role in that relationship, is to be honest, because they can't help me if I'm not being honest.
Right.
So Lynn, let me jump in. So here's how I pre-qualified my first sponsor. And I have to frame this a little bit.
I heard the story, and it still cracks me up.
So Lynn, I was in this posh rehab in Laguna Beach, penthouse on the ocean. I mean, it was posh. And so this sponsor came in, this guy from AA comes in the first week, and they say, get a temporary sponsor, right? So we had a couple of these people come in, and this one guy came in, and I'm like, that's my sponsor. And I picked him because he had a really cool watch on. And I just knew that was my pre-qualifications. And I just knew. Now, I lucked out, okay? But there are people. So let me bounce it to you. You pick the lady sitting next to you. Maybe there wasn't a whole pre-qualification process. Like, I'm not sure what kind of watch she was wearing. But so maybe you didn't pre-qualify her. To help somebody today, how would you suggest that somebody new in the program pick out a temporary sponsor or a sponsor candidate?
I'm glad you said temporary sponsor. I think that's an important thing to probably do the first time through. And I even said that with my sponsee, let's try this out. Let's see how it goes. We'll keep in touch, whatever. But I asked the girl that asked me to be her sponsor. I said, why do you want me? I said, what makes you think you want me? And she said, because you always sound like you're talking from your heart. And I love your shares. And I can see the hope in you. I can see that I have a chance maybe. I had also some similarities. I played softball. She played softball. Her daughter plays softball. My daughter plays softball. So we had some things, commonalities.
Glenn and I had a lot of commonalities as well. He drank, I drank. We both drank. It's very uncanny. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, to pick somebody that you feel you might have a connection with, whether, I do a lot of Zoom. I do in person here. I said do. I do in person here.
Do.
And I really, really like it. I feel like that's a huge advantage if you can go to in-person meetings. Zoom got me sober, so I'm not complaining about Zoom. I still love it. I still do it. But for me, it has to be somebody that you have a connection with in some way. You like their shares. You connect with something they're sharing to you. Not to you, but in the rooms, or you just, like their positivity, or you like, there's got to be some kind of common goal. At least for me, that's what it was. I'm not saying that's what it has to be, but that's for me.
Yeah, that's what, my sponsor today, he still has a nice watch, but I picked him because I wanted what he had.
Yep.
Right? And what he had that I wanted, first of all, he had, probably when I picked him, he had 3 years sobriety at that point, maybe 4, right? So, he kind of knew
Which was a lifetime for you.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
It's like, whoa, 4 years.
But there were guys that had 30 years, and they won't be able to relate to me, right?
Right.
But he had kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had kids, and I needed help with mine. And so, and he showed up a lot, right? I saw him a lot, so I knew he was involved. And when he shared, I connected with what he said, right? And then I had some couple conversations with him. So, Lynn, to your point about the connection, I felt like I had somewhat of a connection with him, and so that's why I finally asked him. And it turned out to be an absolute miracle for me.
Right. So Lynn, let's take this from a whole different vantage now. Talk to the person whose daughter just suggested that they go to AA or get some help. What are the couple, 3 things you would say to that person?
I would probably say, if somebody's suggesting that you go to a program or suggesting that you get help, truly take that and go with it. Don't do what I did. Don't sit back and say, you know what, I'm going to do this for her. I'm going to do this. Really look at yourself. Really take the advice that you get when you walk into that room. Really sit down, find somebody that you can talk to, and try working the steps. Because more than likely, if somebody else thinks that you belong there, you probably do. And if you've even thought for a second that you might belong there, you probably do. I don't know. Yeah, that's pretty much what I would say.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love it. Own it. Own part of it. I mean, look, I knew when I was in my teens that I couldn't handle my consumption. I made all kinds of excuses. I didn't eat. I don't weigh a lot. I had all these excuses. I went through decades of continuing to tell myself I probably don't have a problem when I knew inherently I did. And so it goes back to your main point, sit on that first step. I mean, do you really, are you believing that you're powerless over this thing called alcohol or not? If you don't believe it, then go out and, as Dr. John says, go out and,
Yeah, do your research.
Do your research.
It's just, I have not seen, somewhere there's that invisible line. Once you cross it, I've never seen anybody go back.
No.
And it just gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
There is a solution.
I'm not one that likes to say go out and try it on your own and see if you can do it, because that's certainly not something I would want somebody to do.
Right.
But truly, if you can pick yourself apart pretty quickly. And, if you're hiding bottles at home, probably an alcoholic. If you're drinking alone at home, you're probably an alcoholic. I mean, there's a lot of things that can tell us immediately that we're alcoholics and this is where we belong.
Right. Well, we're happy. Today we're recovering alcoholics, and you certainly are
Yes,
living
we are.
You're living the promises right now. Yes.
I'm telling you, my life has turned around. Like, I can't. The joy and the happiness that I have in life is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And do you mind if I ask, you just celebrated an anniversary not too long ago? How much time was that?
18 months.
18
little
months.
over 18 months.
That is fantastic.
Amen, man. That's great, Lenny.
Yeah, Lynn, thanks so much for joining us at the coffee shop.
Thank you. Thanks, guys, for having me. I want to say one more thing real quick.
Yeah.
Hope is one of my go-tos all the time. And one of the things for hope is hold on, pain ends.
Hold on, pain ends.
I love it. And Lynn, while we are broadcasting your audio, we are seeing you on video.
That's right.
And the whole time I'm looking at her, I'm just thinking about the word hope, and I'm wondering why.
There's a sign right behind her that says hope.
Yeah, there is.
I know.
Yes.
I'm like, hope, hope, hope.
Yes.
Hope is an anchor for the soul, guys.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Lynn,
love it, Lynn.
Lynn, love you. Thanks so much for joining us at the coffee shop.
All right, Lenny. We'll see you.
We'll see you.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.